Adidas. Quite simply, it's just not good enough. What's up guys, I'm James and welcome to BootWizard Boot Reviews. Today it is takedown model review day. We are doing the €80 Adidas Predator 20.3. This is the laced variation. We will be doing the laceless variation later on and we'll drop a few comparisons here and there. Now, over the last couple of years, I suppose, Adidas have gradually improved their takedown models as far as I'm concerned. The X is a fantastic example. The X Ghosted, the 0.3, the 0.3 laceless, they're all steps up from what you got previously, and even the Nemesis seems to have got an improvement from generation to generation. It just feels like they haven't quite nailed what the formula is for a high quality Predator 0.3 takedown model just yet. This is Hamilton. Dude, I'm busy. If you do like the video or Hamilton the cat, then do hit the like button, get subscribed to the channel for more boot reviews and Hamilton the cat, and if you do want to support me or feed Hamilton the cat, then head to patreon.com/BootWizard, where you can do all of those things. Let's get into the review and have a look at the upper on this Predator 20.3 Freak 20.3 with the laces. Come on. So the upper on these is a mesh-based synthetic with kind of a textured finish, but you don't get demon skin. What you do get is demon scale. And if you're wondering what on earth is demon scale, well, it's absolutely nothing. What demon scale is this graphic that runs around the boot that is supposed to mimic what you get from the other Predator lines in terms of the demon skin, which is this rubber texture. None of that here. You just get some graphics. The liner on the inside is okay. I've felt worse. In fact, it's better than what you get on some of the Nike Pro level boots because it's not quite that cheap tent-like material that I always describe, and there's a little bit of padding in between the liner and the upper so that what you get is a slightly more padded, slightly more distant sensation on the ball. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but definitely something to note. However, because this is the laced variation and the whole boot sits a bit closer to your foot, the touch is that bit sharper and the boot is that bit closer to you than if you were to get the laceless variation, where there just seems to be a lot of room and the fit around and next to your foot isn't that great. So in terms of the touch on the ball and getting something that really does feel that little bit more responsive, this is the way to go instead of the laceless variation. So the material that makes up the bulk of the upper is okay. And we do have to remember this is an €80 takedown boot here, so we can't expect what you're going to get from a €270 boot. But I do have one fairly big gripe regarding the upper on this, and it is this material, this mesh that fills in the central section of it where the tongue would normally be. So if we take a look at it, it's just a super flaccid, pointless, flexible bit of material. Like, honestly, they'd be so much better off, both looks and performance-wise, just sticking a regular tongue in here. This is clearly only here to try and replicate the look of those plus level boots, and it just doesn't do a good job, because what it does is makes the boot look even cheaper. Even by giving it that high cut in the back and that slightly higher fit in the front, they've even tried to show that kind of replication of the two-piece back construction, even though it's not there. Now, I get that a takedown is supposed to be like the top-end boot, but with cheaper materials, but when that cheaper design and cheaper material actually makes the boot worse, is it really worth it? And it's so thin that you could complain that you potentially get lace bite, because even through a one-piece upper, because this is just so pointless. It just doesn't do anything, and it's just a really poor quality material that looks poor quality, feels poor quality, and it's definitely worse than what you're going to see in the rest of the boot. But I did mention the laces and lace bite there, and while we're continuing to talk about that, this only has 3 crossover points, which isn't actually that many, especially when the laces do run fairly deep down the boot. I would expect to get at least 4 crossover points. So what you do by only having 3 is you put extra pressure on the areas where there are laces, and you get worse lockdown. And I don't know why they didn't just add an extra lace crossover point here. These are big crossovers. One more wouldn't have gone amiss. It would have made the boot better. It would have made the fit better, which is definitely a problem and something that we will get onto a little bit later on. So the upper material, it's reasonably soft, it's reasonably pliable, and it's not bad for a boot at this price point. I think the Demon scale is ridiculous, because why even put it there? Because it's just a graphic in the first place, and then this central lacing position thing, collar, flaccid nonsense is stupid and pointless, and it's poor. They'd have been better off going a different way and making a more high quality boot, when in actual fact this is just extra material that you don't need. I get replicating a design, but when it comes at the cost of the quality of the boot, then why bother? It's all right, and that annoys me. Okay, let's take a look at the traction. Now, you will notice here that I actually have the MG plate. So this is the multi-ground plate, not the FG plate. The FG is this one here, so you can actually see both side by side. I'll go into more detail on the FG plate when I do the laceless version review, so get subscribed for that. But for now, we will just take a look at the MG, which is okay, again, for the price. You've got a fairly standard piece of plastic that runs the length of the boot and gradually gets less stiff. There's no bend points, there's no flex points or anything like that. It just gradually gets thinner as you reach the top end of the boot in order to allow it to flex. It's okay, it's nothing more than that, but there's also not a whole heap wrong with it. Not special, not awful. You also don't get excessive kind of twist or rotation or anything like that, which does help this boot have okay responsiveness without it being amazing. So for the price, you can get better, but it's not terrible. The MG is actually my preference of the MG or the FG when it comes to the takedown models, purely for a value for money point of view. These will work, or they are allowed. They're basically covered by insurance for both FG and AG pitches. And if I'm buying something that is that at a budget price point, I want the best value for money that I can possibly get, and buying the MG over the FG is probably what I would go for, because the FG doesn't have any significant advantage. So purely on a value for money perspective, I would pick this up, and it is decent for both FG and AG pitches. And even though it is called multi-ground, it's actually exactly the same sole plate as you get on the AG versions of those upper end plus and 0.1 models. There's not a huge amount of difference there, apart from obviously the standard and quality of the materials, which is the biggest thing. It's just not as premium in terms of the materials used, but you pay a lot less money. So the traction, the sole plate is fine. I'm not gonna do a song and dance about it, but I'm not gonna get down on it too much either. All right, let's get these on the scales. Obviously, takedown boots tend to be a little bit heavier. These don't feel too heavy in hand or on feet, and the actual weight is 245 grams, which is on the heavier end of things. It's certainly not too heavy, it's certainly not a huge problem, and if you are buying these, weight is probably not your primary concern, but 245, it's okay. Bearing in mind, this is on the MG stud pattern, which is a little heavier than the FG. So if I pop the FG on, but again, this is the laceless model, this comes in at 242. There's actually more material elements to the laceless variation, and this still comes in that little bit cheaper, being on the FG plate. So if you want the lightest possible option, grab the FG plate, but weight's not really a big deal here. Neither one's particularly light, and it's fine. Okay, value. Cutting straight to the chase, there are better options out there at this price point. If you want to get a current line takedown Adidas boot, then I would say that the X Ghosted is definitely better than this. I probably prefer the Nemesis takedown to this as well. The Copa is better than this. It's the worst 0.3 laced variation of an Adidas boot that you can buy. So if you got this money to spend and you want an Adidas boot, pick up any of the other ones, in my opinion at least. And then you've also got to consider what you can pick up on sale for this kind of money. Recently, there's been some good sales from some really reputable retailers where you're getting older Adidas 0.1 level models, like an X19.1 and things, at around €100. So if you can pick those up for that, they're infinitely better than this. Even a Nike Pro level model on sale, especially something like a Vapor, always going to be better than this. I just don't think that in today's market, an €80 boot of this quality offers very good value for money, and it's not something that I would recommend either from a performance or from a value point of view. Okay, fit is not ideal here either. The lockdown is poor and it's poorly distributed because of those laces. The fit in the heel is bad. The heel counter itself is actually fairly deep, but the way that it's shaped means that it feels very shallow, like those older Adidas takedown models that had that shallow heel counter that I hated so very much. Looking at you, Predator 19.3. That's not great. The heel liner material itself is reasonably slick, so at no point do I feel locked into this heel counter. And if I'm being honest, my heel moves when wearing these boots, when cutting, when turning. That combined with this flaccid material not giving a good fit overall through the midfoot or the forefoot, it's just not great. It's really not. The liner isn't removable, but I don't have any comfort problems through the sole of the boot. Like, there's no pressure points here, either in this MG version or in the FG version. So that is actually fairly comfortable. No criticisms there. And then in terms of sizing, true to size, absolutely my recommendation here. I have these in my US 8 and they fit very, very well. Like, they're exactly what I would want in length terms from a boot at that size. Honestly, I don't have a huge amount to say about the Predator 0.3 laced because it doesn't really have any standout features. And yes, you can argue that of course it's a takedown model and you expect to get less, but it's not even the best boot or close to being the best boot at this price range. As I said earlier, if you want to get a boot in this price range and a current level Adidas boot, go and pick up the X. It's far better. This is just not good enough for the price, in my opinion. It has no outstanding characteristics. There's no reason for me to want to go out and buy this. There's definitely not a chance that I want to even attempt to take this out into a game. And if I'm going to sit here and review these and recommend boots to you, this isn't a boot that I'm going to confidently recommend. If you like them, great. But for me, this is poor at best, and I wouldn't pick them up. If you do want to pick them up, top link down in the top comment. Of course, I do have the laceless review coming soon as well, so do get subscribed to get that with the notifications on, and do let me know what you think. Do you think I'm being way too harsh on a boot that is in fact, at the end of the day, only €80? Do let me know down in the comments, and if you can support us and feed Hamilton the cat, then please do head to patreon.com/BootWizard where you can do so. But that's all from me here today. Have a good one. I'll see you soon.